Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
I'm super excited for today's episode because we're talking about something that literally, we talk about martial arts a lot. And one of the things that I tell people that sets martial arts apart from a lot of other things is that it helps people build confidence.
Yeah, it does. And I think why it does, because it focuses on that. Whether you're performing or you're doing combat, both you have to be confident with in order to be successful. So there's a lot of martial arts that can fit the bill for that. It doesn't have to be a martial arts that focuses strictly on MMA. And I would argue sometimes that's not the right type of confidence with certain instructors that you want to have. And so these three simple steps that we're going to go through are just that. They're simple to do. The problem is you have to actually do them. You have to actually, participate in them in order for this to happen. But they will make a difference.
Well, and I think what's interesting, right, is I think there's two kinds of confidence. There's, very specific confidence in like a task or an activity.
Sure.
So you might be great at basketball, you might be great at martial arts, and
right.
When we watch a basketball game at the kids' high school, there's kids who are confident shooting from the foul line, right, because they've done it over and over and they know. But then on the other side of things, there's that just overall confidence as a person, right? That knowledge that you can do hard things, that feeling that you can figure things out, right?
Right.
And I think, breaking down these three really easy steps to make yourself a more confident person kind of embodies a lot of what we do in the martial arts to make people more confident there, and kind of helps anybody get there, by doing these things. But like you said, you have to do them.
Yeah. So one of the mistakes I think parents make and instructors can make is thinking that just praising people alone is going to build their confidence. Now, I believe in praising people. I think you should encourage people. I think you should try to be kind and encouraging when you can. But ultimately, they have to actually experience a little bit of hardship. They have to do something that makes them a little bit better. And that brings us to step one, which is celebrate your wins, and actual things that are wins. So if your 4-year-old learns to tie a shoe, that's a win. If your 15-year-old learns to tie their shoe, unless they have developmental issues, that is not a win.
Yeah.
So it's all on a scale. So it's important that you do celebrate your wins. That's big, but you want to make sure that they're constantly getting a little more difficult.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that, confidence grows from that consistent reinforcement, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear people say, well, that person has a false sense of confidence,
Yeah.
right? That usually comes from exactly what you said, just telling somebody they're good at something, even though maybe they're not. It's just from that almost like empty praise that we see people get, or maybe they've just never, maybe they've always played tennis against somebody who's not very good at tennis,
right?
So they have that confidence that they're just better than everybody, but they're not, so doing those difficult things and reinforcing those small wins, is really what plants the seeds and waters that confidence that you want to get. And I think really it's finding even the small wins, hey, I woke up early today when I don't usually, like I've wanted to get up early and exercise. I got up early. Maybe I didn't exercise. Maybe I just got up early, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really think, finding those and just helping you, kind of continue to stack those small wins will help you build confidence.
Yeah, and I think that's important, and that is something that whether you're developing a student or you're trying to do this yourself is that you do celebrate. But like I said, then they have to get a little harder. They incrementally improve and get harder, because getting back to the martial arts analogy, what you expect from a white belt is way different than you expect from a green belt, right? It should be. And if they're still doing white belt stuff at green belt, that to me is not acceptable, and they have to be pushed and motivated and whatever to get better. So you think of that same thing, the levels that you're going for. Like if you're not a morning person, like your example, and then now you're getting up 15 minutes earlier than you were, and that's a win. You should celebrate that, not by sleeping in, but do it the next day, and that's how your confidence is going to build.
100%. I think that's great. And I think, that momentum builds confidence, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that momentum and that stacking, of those small wins, big wins, or, I mean, obviously overcoming difficulty, right, is really what builds that confidence. So, I mean, if you're somebody who, wakes up an hour early and works out every day, and one day you wake up 15 minutes early and don't work out, it's not building any confidence, right? Like there's
right.
nothing to
Yep,
celebrate there. But
yep,
I think if you're overcoming something, if you're proud of yourself that day, I mean, I think one big mistake people make with confidence is, we're looking for that like external validation. Like we're looking for
yeah,
other people to pat us on the back.
yeah,
It doesn't really happen much,
yeah,
in a grown-up setting. Like at the
yeah.
office, we don't get patted on the back often enough.
Right, right.
So I think being able to kind of internalize that achievement helps.
Yeah, for sure. So number two is, and this one, people are at first, I think, are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" I don't know, but I know this is big with you, and I think this has been super helpful with me, and that is adopting a power pose.
Physiology.
Yes.
I mean, it's a big word, but I mean, it always for me goes back to that thought that, they had runners who like would win a race, and the first thing they would do is throw their arms in the air in that V formation
Yeah.
of accomplishment,
Yep.
and even though they had never seen or didn't know what that meant, the
Sure.
body does things innately to demonstrate different emotions and feelings, right? And you can go the other way where do the body first and
Right.
then get the feelings.
Yeah.
So I think this is such a powerful thing. If you're someone who slouches, looks
Hmm.
at the ground, we talk about this in karate, the three laws of focus, right?
Yep.
Good body posture. It
Right.
makes you feel better.
Yes. Yeah. And when I'm teaching self defense class, let's say to beginners, and we do different seminars throughout the year, one of the biggest things that I talk about, and it's a big part of my self defense, is walk and talk with confidence. And real quick, the whole idea behind that is somebody that is looking to a predator that's looking to attack somebody for whatever reason and doing whatever is they're going to look for the weakest person. And how do they look for the weakest person? By visually seeing clues that they look weak. Meaning, if they're looking down, if they are slunched over, they have bad body posture, if they're confronted, they're timid with their voice. All of that is a sign of this is a weak person that I can take advantage of. Obviously, we want to have a different approach, and that's where those power poses come in. So if you walk with confidence, your eyes are straight ahead, you're speaking with confidence, even if you're acting, even if you're faking it to a certain extent, what happens is you eventually you hopefully fake that person out, right? But in a regular setting, in a setting that's not confrontational, it just helps you sell better. Sell your, and I'm not talking about get a sale, but sell your ideas. That so a power pose. It doesn't actually have to be a pose, although that is helpful too.
So it's funny you said fake it, because I
Yeah,
think this is one of those places where, fake it till you make it.
yeah,
Not always the best strategy, but
yeah,
and that's a big but, right? But if you're having a day when you say, geez, I'm just not feeling it today, or I
yeah,
don't feel good today, or
yeah.
think in your head, what would someone who did feel good, how
Right.
would they hold themselves, right?
Yep.
If you're not feeling confident, how would someone who was confident stand? Where would their
Right.
eyes be? How would they be
Right.
breathing? And
Right.
if you change
Exactly.
those things, you're going to change the way you feel. Now, listen, if you have walking pneumonia, right, you can only bring yourself to a certain point. So fake it till you
Yeah.
make it is
Yeah.
not going to cure, your walking pneumonia, but
Yeah. Right.
you will feel better. I
Yeah.
mean, you won't feel as terrible as you feel. So,
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, posing, do I do a Superman pose every time I walk into a room? Absolutely not. But do I try to, kind of check my body posture every time I walk through a doorway? Yes,
Yeah.
because that helps remind me to do it.
Yeah. If anybody's ever done a performance or has done any public speaking, and anytime I do either of those things, I'm going to get my body in the right state. So not only am I going to warm up properly for whatever I'm doing, but also I'm going to put myself in a power pose oftentimes. And I'm going to make sure that I look confident and I'm ready and I'm mentally focused. And so I think we need to do that more often throughout our day, especially when we want to get things done, especially when we're interacting. I mean, think about meetings you're in, and if you're in a professional setting, and there's certain people running meetings, and they're boring. They don't know how to run a meeting. Their voice quality is low. They're not exciting to listen to. They need a lot of work, and they're not able to influence anybody because of they didn't put themselves in the right frame of mind. They're not showing confidence,
Yeah.
So you want to learn from that, and how can you be better and improve?
Absolutely. I think that's a great tip. Physiology plays such a big part in
Yep.
communication, that I think is just important to keep on. And then, moving on to step three, which I love and kind of relates back to the podcast we did last week about, that rewiring your positive mindset. If you haven't listened to that, go back and
Yep.
check it out. But, speak kindly to yourself and replace your self-doubt with positive self-talk, right?
Right.
Because we all have it. We all have those things that pop into our head.
Yep.
I always mess things up. I
Yep.
blah blah blah. Change, like, catch yourself when you say those things and change them to something else.
Right.
Change them to something that's more positive. I'm learning, I'm growing. There's a time for tough love. There's always a
Yeah,
time for tough
for
love,
sure.
but not every morning.
Yeah. 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 And there's nothing wrong to have high standards and being tough on yourself, like you said, in certain instances. But if you're making progress, that's then you don't want to always feel bad about not getting things done, because that is not going to motivate you and help you, right? So give yourself a little grace sometimes and say, listen, I've had a hard go at it, or this has been happening, a lot of things are happening in my life, but my goal is to do this. So you do 50% of what you normally do, and then eventually get that back up to the 100%. And so there's nothing wrong with doing that, as long as you're not lowering your standards that are going to stay there. So it's a balance, like anything. Is you can be too tough on yourself, and you can certainly be too easy on yourself. You want to have that balance, so that way you're progressing and getting
Yeah.
better.
I think that's yes, because I think, you can totally say to yourself, man, for someone who's going through all those things that I feel like I'm going through, I really nailed like two or three things today.
Yeah.
And that just feels so much better than I only got two things done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because,
Yep.
and listen, there's days going back to what we talked about with kind of building confidence, that there's days when getting those two things done was, 100% of what you could get done,
Right.
for whatever reason, and you
Right.
should be proud of yourself. Now, there's
Right.
days when those two things got done and nothing else got done because you were scrolling social media, watching TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, different. Those are two
Yeah.
different scenarios. But if you had a day, like, and everyone knows what I mean when I say when you've had a day,
Yeah.
and you can celebrate two to three things that you rocked at and you were proud of yourself, put that into your language
Right.
so that you can, replace all those negative kicks in the face with some positive kicks in the face.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. And because there's a time to push, a times to push through things, but also there's a time to say, okay, that was good. I did all I could today. That was the best I could do today. And if it truly was your best, and you're always trying to do your best gets better. It's when we don't do our best. Things come up, and we're not gonna feel like something's trying to get a hold of me. I'm not feeling 100%. We're going to have days like that, or you have an injury, and all of those can be not so good. But if you're at least moving in a direction, and you're moving forward, you should be kind to yourself and give yourself a little break. Yes, I'm moving forward. I'm recovering from this injury. Then eventually I'll get a little bit better. So that's where that balance comes in, for sure.
It's crazy. So, like, today, I did two very hard things very early in the morning that I had been procrastinating. And I was literally thinking, you're like, I don't know how much more I can do today. Like I'm exhausted already. And it's what, 9:30 when we're recording this,
Yeah.
But I'm going to be able to say at the end of the day, man, I really knocked those two things out. And then I continue to do a couple other things.
Right.
So really speak kindly to yourself, get rid of that self-doubt and that negative self-talk. It's not serving you.
For sure.
So, okay, let's review our steps. So going back to number 1. So this is us talking about 3 really simple steps that you can take. Simple, but you have to do them to build confidence. So number 1, celebrate your wins and your daily achievements to help you build momentum, right? So, be true to yourself. Make sure you're actually achieving things and you're proud of yourself. But when you catch those moments where you're proud of yourself, really stack that progress.
Number 2 is adopt power poses. And this is really physiology, making sure that you look confident, you appear confident. And then what happens is you feel more confident when you do that.
And number 3, speak kindly to yourself. Replace that negative self-talk with positive self-talk. Really give yourself that pep talk that you need. Those negative words you're using are not helping your brain move in the right direction. So really work on that.
Awesome.
And this wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Share this with somebody who needs to be more confident or who would love this podcast, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.